Hey there! Have you ever wanted to do paper piecing because you want to make those cool patterns that traditional piecing can't do, but you've never done it before, you're not sure you're doing it right? Well, I've got the perfect project for you, and I'm going to use that project to show you the basic skills of paper piecing. These Christmas tree coasters are the perfect small project for learning how to paper piece. You do not have to commit to making a full quilt or dedicate a large amount of fabric. The pattern includes 4 templates. Each of them gets somewhat more difficult in skill level with piecing. I'm going to walk you through some steps with my first beginner level coaster. When you print out the template, print to its actual scale at 100%. If you want to make sure you did that correctly, grab your ruler and run it over the inch marker box to see if it is a perfect fit. When it does, you will know that your project is going to end up at the size that the pattern has stated. Another important thing to note is the fact that you're going to be sewing fabric onto the back side of the template paper. This means that whatever you see here is going to guide you with fabric placement, but your finished project is going to show through here with the right side of the fabric facing up. This also means that your finished project will end up as a mirror or backwards image of what you currently see on the printed side. Cut out the template a little roughly outside the dotted lines, as I will trim it more perfectly when I'm finished with piecing. Here are some scraps I've chosen to work with. Before I sew anything to this template, I will prep it by making a crease on every single line marked for sewing. You will see later that I will use these creases to help with fabric placement, and it is alright to continue the folds past the marked lines. If you take a look at the template, you'll find that the letters correspond to fabric color and the numbers indicate the order of piecing. It looks like I'll first need to find fabric for A1 and B2. When it comes to size requirements for each piece of fabric, they need to be able to cover the area marked by the solid lines, plus a 1/4 inch around that area. It is typically much safer to get a piece that is too big than a piece that might fit just right. When it is too big, you can always trim it down after sewing. Now I'll place my first piece of fabric on the back side of A1 on the template to make sure that it's covering the A1 boundaries plus a 1/4 inch around. If you fold the crease where you are going to sew, you should see that 1/4 inch seam hanging out. Or to be more specific, the fabric that shows the 1/4 seam allowance. When you place the next piece for B2, place it right sides together with the A1 fabric and match that 1/4 seam allowance. When you fold the template over at the crease, you will know for sure that this fabric placement is correct if the B2 area is covered by that fabric down under plus a 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to go over to the machine where I'll shorten my stitch length to 1.5 millimeters and sew along that line. Now that I've sewn along that line, you'll see the 2 fabrics sitting right sides together. It's time to open and press it open. Since this B2 piece now falls quite a bit over the edge of the template, I can go ahead and trim it. Then give it a good press. Alright, now let's look at placing the third piece of fabric for B3. I'm going to use this scrap of piece that I just cut off and place it right here so you can see that it's definitely going to be big enough for the space shown in the template because it covers the area plus a 1/4 inch around the perimeter. When I fold this edge over, which is the line I'm going to sew along for this piece, you will see that everything you see past this crease is extra fabric. We just want to see fabric that falls a 1/4 inch over this area for that 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to grab my ruler and trim a 1/4 inch away from this crease. Once we've gotten rid of that excess fabric, we can place the next piece of fabric. Make sure that it runs right sides together with the last piece you worked with, and the newest edge should also line up with the 1/4 inch seam allowance of fabric that you just trimmed. Here's one more thing to check. Make sure this piece is placed correctly by folding this shape over at the crease. You want to see that this area will be covered by the new fabric way down under, plus a 1/4 inch around the perimeter. When I know it's good to go, I'm going to sew along this line and come back. Alright, I'm back from sewing and this is what it looks like. I need to open it up because it's currently right sides together. When you see that the B3 area is covered plus the 1/4 inch perimeter, you're good to move on. It looks like I'm going to do the same on this side for B4, but before I do that I want to press it, and since this is going to be the new seam, I can trim this excess fabric a 1/4 inch away from the crease. It's time to place fabric for B4, so I'm going to fold it over at the next crease. Here's my 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to line up my next piece along the edge, right sides together. This is the B4 area I want to cover by making sure that the area on the other side is going to be covered by this piece of fabric plus a 1/4 inch around the perimeter. When it looks good, sew along that line. I'm just back from sewing on that line, and I'm going to go ahead and press that fabric open. Now it's time to piece for fabric A5. I'm first going to fold over at the crease where I'm about to sew. Here you'll see all the excess fabric that you can trim a 1/4 inch away from that crease. Line it up with your ruler and give it a trim. And here's the A5 fabric that I want to use. I can tell here just by looking that the piece is big enough, so I'll go ahead and line it up right sides together with the edges that I just trimmed. When I fold the template over at the crease, you want to see that the A5 area is going to be covered by this fabric. Just to be safe, I'm going to move it down a little bit to help make sure that the triangle area will be covered plus a 1/4 inch around that perimeter. When it looks good, I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew along the mark line, and I'll be back. Now that I have the entire backside of the template covered with fabric, it's time to trim perfectly along the outside edge of the template. For me, this is probably one of the most satisfying, rewarding parts of paper piecing, and I just so enjoy making these designs. If you want to make these too, they come as a pattern in my shop for just $5 with finishing instructions to turn them into coasters. I hope you enjoy, and happy holidays this season no matter what projects you work on.